Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this general government meeting of the city council. May we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Dick.
Here.
Councilmember Maloney.
Here.
Schmisher. Here. Stein.
Here.
Tracy.
Here.
Worthington.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hemmer.
Here.
Mayor Troutman.
Here.
We are all here and assembled to talk about a code of conduct tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to say there's, from my perspective, there's a couple of reasons that we want to talk about this code of conduct tonight. The more general one is that we've done some research and looked at different codes of conduct that other councils have had. Perhaps what we do can be a basis for the new council as when they're assembled and sworn in, and hopefully that might save them a little bit of time. But the second reason that I think is important for us to talk about this tonight is we do have a motion of censure based on a code of conduct that we will be considering at the next city council meeting in formal session. And I think that this discussion will help bring clarity, at least that's my hope, that it will bring clarity to that discussion. So this evening, we're not here to talk about that censure motion in particular. We're here to talk about code of conduct in general and talk about what we do have and what, if there's changes or improvements that can be made to a code of conduct, perhaps record those and have that available for the next council. And with that, did you have something prepared, Mr. Administrator?
I do not. I think this is a discussion amongst council.
Okay. Well, so with that, I know that we have a request to speak here, and although that this is on our agenda, because this is a more informal session, Phil, we're glad to let you say what you'd like, because we do know that you have another meeting to go to. And so trying to be cognizant of that timing. So you probably won't be able to be here for the whole thing. Maybe we'll be done early and we'll get to the whole thing. But would you like to address us?
Sure, I would. Thank you very much. So obviously I'm running on course for the mayor's position, and I'm hoping I might speak by with that election coming up. I'm concerned about the code of conduct as far as the discussion having any ramifications for future councils. I think John, Mayor Pro Tem, you indicated that it would be good for the future council, and I don't disagree with that position as to content, but to try to pass anything at this late season with 3 new members coming on as far as the city council, a new mayor, a 50% turnover, and I think Brian and I had a discussion that's the biggest turnover that we've had in quite some time, and to at this late hour, because of a specific issue that has come up, causing this discussion to take place, to have it now become something that a future council would have to live under. It's something I would ask that you not do that. If you do indeed pass a code of conduct, I would ask that you have it sunset December 31st of 2025. So it applies specifically to you, and the future council, I think, would like to take it up themselves as far as where they have that position. So I just wanted to make sure that I lay that out for you. I appreciate the time to speak, but I have talked to more than just myself as far as candidates who were there, and we all have basically the same position that we'd like to take this up ourselves for the future council.
It might be premature, but congratulations and good luck. But
getting good mentorship from him. So
remember that we cannot take formal actions tonight.
oh, I
This is
understand.
just only a discussion. You know.
Totally. I'm throwing that up for discussion.
And that's from my perspective, that's all we're doing here.
Yeah. I understand. And I'm hoping again, you'll agree that limiting that to December 31st, 2025 would be the right thing.
I don't have a button to push.
Oh, yes, sir.
The code of conduct that we had, I was the first signer, which shocked me a little bit in 2018. That hasn't changed. I don't know, you have offense, is that you find that offensive? The other thing that we have anything different is this draft for social media. Because the code of conduct stands. it's of record and it's a regulation. We're not changing that, are we?
No, not, this is just discussion tonight, and so.
Yeah, yeah. So the only thing I would think that would be different. Of course, you can always, with the new council, and you can do whatever you want when you get on there. I don't recommend it, but you can. That's been in place since 2018.
That I agree with, but I don't think you would be having the code of conduct discussion if it weren't for the potential for what has came up with the social media, thing, that we're all aware of. I won't mention it specifically, but that has caused this kind of discussion. And again, I think, we would just soon go with the 2018, code of conduct and, whatever happens with social media. I use social media all the time, hopefully in a way that, is positive. I plan on continuing that, and I would just as soon not have restrictions, whatever you come up with, apply to us, give us a chance to, take it up ourselves. And obviously, Mr. Mayor, you know better than anybody, mayors don't have votes. And so it's gonna be up to the future council, what they would like to do with, their 7 votes. But I do want to raise that issue that, we prefer that, we, at least I think I'm speaking for a majority of people, that, sunset December 31st. You got people here that are serving on the future council, Amy, Kathy, Jerry, and, so I think, I would like to see it taken up with that.
So the only thing that we would, if we did anything, would be the draft proposal for the social media policy. Everything else stands.
I understand.
Okay, okay.
So.
Cause you
throwing
had,
it out there.
you had said so the policy that, but it's in place. So
So I understand.
Okay.
Whatever you're gonna do tonight, obviously you're taking it up for possible amendment. John mentioned, Mayor Pro Tem, Hamrick, mentioned specifically that would be brought up at a future council as far as a possible resolution or making something happen. And I'm just asking again that, you consider doing it for yourselves. Give us a chance to look at it for ourselves, with the new council, in 2026.
Well, I hate to beat the point. It's still the social media that you have, because the other one's in place. We can't sunset that.
I'm not asking that.
I know, but so the only thing that you would be asking is if we were to pass anything, it would be on the social media policy.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
yes, I'm not asking, for clarity, I'm not asking it
Yeah,
to sunset
okay.
December 31st, 2025, the past one of 2018. I am asking that you let us, consider our own social media policies. I think we use it differently than what is here, and, it's only the question. Again, we've got 3 members here that, will be part of that discussion, so they can take whatever you decide tonight and bring it over to us in the future, and, we can consider that. So,
Okay.
and you can deny the request. I'm just throwing it out for conversation. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, with that, we do have existing codes of conduct. Stop mentioning that. You have existing codes of conduct.
Mhm.
Yes. Great, thank you, appreciate that, Jerry. Thank you for that. So we have a code of conduct that was adopted by resolution maybe series of 2023. And there's another document that's called code of conduct, which is resolution 9, series of 2018. And that is the 2018 one says principles of conduct for the city of Canyon, city council members, city staff, and the public. And what it says is, the principles of conduct is a supplement to the municipal code and code of ethics. Applies to city council staff and public. And then it lists several, ideas or, findings of what that code of conduct should be. And then we have the other document, which is dated resolution 8, series of 2023. And that is a code of conduct with different provisions in it. saying the city of Canyon City will strive to be forthwith in all business, professional, and the city of Canyon City, and that, so that is applies to essentially the city as a whole, and not just council, but both of those do apply to council. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say at this point, or any comments on what we talked about so far?
I guess from my perspective, I think that I know that the 2023 resolution originally came about from an activity that we did during the council retreat a couple of years ago. It's very aspirational in nature, and I don't think it's very, I think it isn't necessarily really a standard. It's something that we would aspire to be, if that makes sense. Like we aspire to be transparent, accountable, collaborative. And but I don't see anything wrong with it or anything that would necessarily need to be updated with it, from my perspective at least. With 2018, I do think that there are a few things within here that we don't currently follow. So, I mean, I think we could talk about if we want to amend it, but I don't know if it necessarily makes sense to make the change that you chair general government meetings. I think it says, that the mayor chairs all meetings or something like that. So, I mean, I think that there are a couple of factual things in there that we may want to think about. And then I think we also may want to think about, it says what won't be allowed by the general public in terms of booing, cheering, yelling, acts that disturb. But I think in practice, I think it can be very hard to enforce that in a way that makes sense and that works. So I think it's probably a longer conversation about how do we want to have something in there that is aspirational that we can't necessarily with regard to I guess for situational awareness, I thought that it would be helpful to know if other cities have more specific policies around social media usage, specific to other municipalities in Colorado, so that they would have to follow the same Colorado revised statute and Colorado Open Records Act. So I just tried to pull together some and then take the bits that were common across them. So I think it's like neither the 2018 nor the 2023 policies talk about social media. And I think it's something that is very commonly used and very pervasive. And I want to make sure that, I just put together a draft that obviously needs to be reviewed by the attorneys. And it may not be what the rest of council thinks is a good idea or the direction that we want to go in. But I do think that it's a tricky enough legal area with regard to what counts as a government Facebook account and what counts as a private Facebook account, that I would love to have a written policy so that I know exactly how to stay on the right side of the Colorado revised statutes and to make sure that I'm not opening myself up to core issues. I had briefly thought about establishing like a East Missouri City Council Facebook page, and then I was like, ooh, do I actually know enough to make sure that I don't get myself into trouble by having one? So I just thought it would be a really helpful thing to have a policy in place that we all agree to and support and think things make sense, and that our attorneys have reviewed and signed off on this, and meeting the needs of the Colorado state laws. So I just put that together as a starting point.
And thank you for that. That was very helpful for me to look at what other councils have done. And one of the things that is a constant thread through all of this is that there are constitutional rights involved here. And because of that, we have to be really careful about what we do and how we do it. Because, like you say, that gets pretty tricky. Councilmember Tracy, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Couple things. I would just say in general that I agree with the statement that was made a little bit ago that some of this probably should just be in the hands of the new council and mayor when they take office in January, just because of where we are in the year. But I see that Attorney Sellers is also in the meeting online and wondering, I recall that when new council members go through orientation with our attorney or attorneys, that I think there's some information that's provided in writing about the legalities of social media. I just don't recall the specifics of that and didn't take time to dig it out. So I wondered if Catherine might address what the attorneys already provide for new council members.
I would have to check because Corey usually does your orientation.
Mhm.
I don't know if he covers social media or not in it. He may talk a little bit about the issues with communicating with the public and the public communicating back and the laws regarding that. I don't think he probably delves into a policy about what council members can post and different types of social media accounts. I don't think he probably gets into that kind of depth.
Yeah, I don't recall,
Actually,
but
Christy, the city's public information officer, has a section on that during orientation. And it's, I think the last line of her paragraph on social media is, if you have any questions, ask the attorneys.
well, and I think my recollection is a little bit like Catherine's, that it's not in detail what Corey does in his orientation, but he does address to some extent things like not deleting, if you're on if you have a city council Facebook page, for example, that you shouldn't be deleting comments that you don't like there that might be made from members of the public. I mean, I have a recollection of that much anyway. So I just wanted to be sure that in addition to what we have in our packet and also what we have from council member Schmisher, that we probably should also have up, and I'll have to dig on my computer or on my iPad to find that, but I do think there is some guidance in what Corey provides.
I do have it in front of me. It's one of the documents that I made sure to pull from when I was creating the draft policy. It's 5 sentences long. I'm happy to send it around to council so that folks don't have to pull from it. But essentially it says, if you have a social media account that you use as your elected official page, keep in mind that everything on that page is subject to the Colorado Open Records Act and is public record. Also note that legally you would never block a person or delete comments from that page unless the comment is not protected under the First Amendment. Please, caps, do not post any city matters on your personal social media accounts. If you do, then your entire personal account is also subject to FORA. For additional information on this, please contact our city attorneys. But I'm sorry, I should have included that in what I sent around last night. I'll go ahead and send that right now.
You know, at first, I like both sides. I can see both sides as far as what Phil brought up as far as waiting until new council. I also understand why we're looking at this right now. I think for long term, I don't know if it's cohesiveness or perspective, but I think we might be better to let the new council. I think it's, in all respects, it's good to go over this now, but I do also agree that this should be something that should be formalized by the new council.
So a strong recommendation to follow. Thank you, Matt. So part of what in reviewing the different documents that other councils have created for themselves about social media, one of the things that kind of jumped out to me is that there's a gray area, that there is not, because it's not all just either this or that, but there's also a third thing that can happen. When we have private accounts, we certainly have First Amendment rights to say and post anything that we want, and I'm absolutely in support of that. The other side of that is that if we have an official city account where we're representing the city on social media, that creates a different set of rules. And the third area, or perhaps rare area, is what happens when the city council member says, I am John Hamrick, I represent District Three for the city of Kansas City and elected to District Three as an elected official for the city. That creates a kind of the middle ground, which is harder to deal with. And I think that's something that we need to talk about here tonight. Where are the limits of that? And what should be that? One of the things that I think that the information that Councilmember Schmisser provided says is that if you're going to identify yourself as a city council member of a particular city council for a particular municipality, that it limits what you can say on your social media posts. And that is because it blurs the line, claiming, not claiming, but stating, correctly so, that you're a member of city council for a particular city, then can create the impression that you're speaking for the city as you make your posts. And it's a little bit harder to discern. And so what other councils have done is said, if you're going to do that, if you want to post that you're essentially your work history and what your current job is, that it does create different restrictions than if you're just a private person posting on a social media account. One of the other things I'd like to point out is that there's all kinds of social media, and some social media is aimed more towards business connections, like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is you could call it social media, and with almost any definition you could create does that there. But part of what you do on a LinkedIn account is to put in your work history. And and we do have city officials, people that work for the city, that do have LinkedIn accounts and represent that they do work for the city and use their accounts for city business, such as announcing hiring, other types of announcements, and things like that. So as we talk about social media, we have to be cognizant of those privileges. Yes, sir.
The thing that I sent down to you, the Supreme Court had a decision in 2024 about in what case, like if someone did go on social media, claim that they spoke for the city, that covers that unless they have been given the responsibility officially to speak for the city, then they can't, if what they say cannot be taken literally as coming from the city. And I did some research in that when it came up. So that might, be some way to something we could work into it.
I think this comes down to it's the perception of what is being said. It doesn't matter if it can't think literally, it's going to.
Right. And that's and the problem with trying to have something for council to follow about social media is that it's just changing so rapidly. And anticipating the kinds of there's nothing about AI, which I can't imagine how someone would use it, but it's in the future, who knows? It might come, something that would misrepresent the city. So that, if we're gonna do it, we might want to add something about that. I don't know.
I appreciate your comments. And I appreciate this running here where it talks about public officials and social media. The court established a new test for determining when a public official's social media account constitutes state action. It's a little bit different than us because we are one of the main differences between this council, what we do, how we've been elected, and other elected officials is that other officials are elected on a partisan basis, and party matters come into play about, how candidates are displayed on the ballot. Here, with our, charter, which references, I think it's a 1968, Colorado legislature, law that they established says that, the I'm gonna lose my train of thought here. Yes, thank you for that. That's the point, is that it's that we're elected without regard to party affiliation. And so because of that fact also, it does change things in my view about how we have to approach this. Because in partisan politics, which we see all the time, all the way from county boards of commission, and all the way up to state representatives, partisan politics is something that happens all the time. And so that that type of partisan speech is not regulated by the bodies, except as a party, as they have constituted themselves. And so it's not one particular party writing rules for the other party, but they have their own rules. And so because we are elected without regard to party affiliation and nonpartisan board, that does add an additional wrinkle to our kind of subjects tonight. Well, and one of the things that this Supreme Court in free speech is not quite applicable, because it talks about state officials, and which are partisan.
But if there were a court case that came out of something in the city, that would, I'm sure.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And what it does go on to say here is the court ruled that a government body's censure of one of its own members does not violate.
And that's a different case, which was earlier, I think, 2018. Yeah.
But it talks about the legality
Yes.
of the censure.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So we've got, so it's, it seems to me we've got quite a fabric, picture here in front of us. Perhaps a puzzle might be a better way to phrase it, but we have lots of different pieces that we're trying to fit together. If nothing else, have guidance for ourselves for till the end of our terms, of what should or should not be permissible in our social media posts and conduct.
Mayor,
Sure, please.
did you say that there were other councils for this had a policy about social media in place?
Yes, and
Not here, I
Not here.
think, he's referencing other
other
municipalities.
councils and other cities.
Makes sense.
Sorry, other cities.
The
For instance,
ones I sent over were Alamosa, Golden, and in the state of Colorado, and citizens and one their own Texas from the user, which I thought was in the most comprehensive. I completely take Bill's point. I do think that this is a kind of thing that needs to be done carefully and thoughtfully, and not, by one person in the evening, writing something up. So with that in mind, I also know that, as a member of the next council as well, I want to not have that hanging over my head for the first 3 months of trying to figure this out. So I would like to go ahead and do some of the work now, also that we have kind of a policy to guide us for our last couple of months, but also so that they have a starting point to consider. Not that, they might choose to go in a different direction, and that's fine, but at least they would have a kind of a something to react to or respond to, and not just start from scratch. I also think like social media is constantly changing and evolving. And there are a lot of municipalities that don't have social media codes of conduct, and it's not, I guess, therefore surprising that we don't have one, that given that to, have an issue, given that it is so prevalent in our community. I think it makes sense to go ahead and put one in place, what we need to do.
Well, I think that if it's a 50% turnover, then 50% new people coming in, you need to have something in place during the orientation. So that on day one, they're pretty clear about what it is we expect. And then if they want to amend it past that point, certainly. But they have to know going in what our policies, we have to do something for January 1.
Councilmember Tracy.
Thanks. Couple things occur to me. I think I'd have to pull it back up again, but I think a definition of social media, we may all be thinking of things like Facebook or Nextdoor, or LinkedIn, but I believe electronic mail, email is also included in at least some of the definitions. And I mean, what are we going to do? Set up a social media police force that looks into people's personal email? I just don't know where that goes. But really what I think we ought to do, or at least my suggestion, others can agree or disagree. My suggestion is that we just have the staff and our attorney's office look at this issue in a little more depth and perhaps come back, whenever it's appropriate from the research that they would want and need to do, come back to us at a future committee meeting, or, if it doesn't fit into our schedule, if it ends up being in the hands of the next council, that's fine too. But I just think it's not something we want to make a quick decision on, because if we are going to adopt a new policy related to social media, which includes email and who knows what else, I think it's going to have to be something that's carefully thought through, because we don't want a policy that we can't enforce. And so we need to think about what that enforcement would look like. Are we turning over all of our private email weekly, or, what would that look like? So my suggestion is that we have staff and the attorney's office look at this further from a legal point of view.
With emails and everything else, sorry, we have policy concerning communications with the public. So that would be covered in anything other than social media. Social media is just kind of a new realm. So maybe we should look at our communication with public policies as well, make sure that they're in line.
It just seems to me, in looking at this, and I am by no means very technical. I don't like Facebook. I don't want to be on it. But it's like any kind of lawsuit or anything else. Once you poison the water, you poison everything. So if you, like with me, I have 86 different sites, and on that they want to know about what I do, what I do in social. And it's big about, I say I'm mayor and former mayor. Does that taint that? I mean, these are sites that, as much as like Walmart in the United States, I push off to all those people, and they know my resume. I'm wondering if that does, in fact, sort of poison that water. Once you say that, then that's poison. On the other hand, I think about my privacy. It's none of your business if I have my email. As long as I don't say I'm mayor of Canyon City, it's none of your business. I expect and will insist on my privacy. You're not looking at my emails. But if I said in my emails, if I said my email account was Preston Troutman Mayor, then that poisoned the whole thing. But again, if you looked at Realtor.com, if you looked at all my certificates I have and everything, it says in there, we want to know about your life. I'm supposed to put in that I'm mayor. I'm proud of that. But does that poison the rest of all those 80-some sites that I get into? Well, when you come on the other side, my privacy, I'm allowed, and I want my privacy. And I'm not going to mention that in there, but I have an email address. That's my personal business. It's none of your business. Does that make any sense?
For sure. What I tried to do in the draft is take the definition of social media directly from the Colorado Revised Statute, so that it's not just us making it up. It's the Colorado Revised Statute that covers private social media usage for locally elected officials. And I think it is pretty clear about what it includes. And I definitely take the point about how do you ensure that privacy is protected on private issues? Like, we are all this is not regardless of how many hours a week we spend doing
You
this.
could have
like,
fooled me, but go ahead.
We have jobs too, or we have other lives too. So what I tried to do, and I think that there are a lot of different ways that this could be done, but I tried to just say, like, you essentially have two options with personal social media, and this is under section 4. Like, you either A, refrain from identifying yourself as a Canyon City elected official, or if you want to, because it's LinkedIn or because it's whatever, then you know, and you say that you are an elected official, and then just say that the views expressed on the account are your own, so that it's, you know, it has nothing to do with the position that you're in.
And maybe that point's well taken. Maybe we, if we're going to pass this on to the next group, which it isn't 50% of it, it's only 3 plus the mayor. But maybe those are the 2 simplest things that we could say. You refrain from it, or if you are, you have to have a clear explanation that this is your opinion and not that of city council. And then from there, if they want to build on that, if you want to build on that or whatever, that's up to you. Or maybe we want to throw that to the attorney if you want to. I don't think you should, but you can if you want to. What do you think? What do they think about that? But make it very simple for now. Because it seems like there's tentacles that could go into all different things. They want to abridge that and go on from there. That's up to them, up to you.
Oh, for sure. We don't want to get into the position of paralysis by analysis, where we're paralyzed because we're analyzing something to that.
Well, I think that makes it clear. If you're going to we're nonpartisan, if you're going to make political comments, then you have to have that disclaimer. And if you're not, then just keep everything out of it. Everything, your position or anything else. Because I still want to be on Facebook to see what my kids are doing.
I would just opt for the refrain. I learned the hard way in 2014 when I was on council about interacting on my personal Facebook page about city things that were going on. And so it's just not a good idea. The refrain is the probably best thing to do, honestly.
Yeah, maybe the option would be, you can't refrain from comments. Here are the 2 points that you need to consider. Need to go with that, because you can go ahead and I've seen some comments that people make and think, well, I'm glad I didn't say that.
Jerry, in your 2014 example, if there had been a fair code of conduct about social media, that may have prevented the negative learning experience.
Correct, yeah, absolutely. And like what I said before about we have to have something in place for the new people coming on. Because I was new in 2014 and I learned really quick how to refrain from the social media explosion of what can happen if you say or do or express the wrong time. So people coming on need to understand that a little bit, you know, the refrain part, less is more. Don't put city business on a personal social media posts and stuff. That's just my opinion. But we have the freedom of speech, so in my opinion, doesn't matter. But it's just maybe my advice.
Well, we do appreciate the hearing, because every member's views are important to us as a group. Councilmember Schmischer, what are your thoughts on trying to simplify the social media policy to something really basic, almost like what the mayor suggested? Just say, you know, either refrain from identifying yourself as a member of city council, or include the clear disclaimer, which I'm not sure if I wanted to include a disclaimer on my Facebook page, how I would do that so that it is, you know, that if someone is following me and sees a post I make, they also see that disclaimer. That have to be like the signature block at the bottom.
You can pin it at the top of the page, but it'll stay at the top. At the top if you want it to.
So, but my question is, if someone is following me, and they're notified that I posted something, you can click on the link to see my post, but the disclaimer would not be there.
No, we'll go through a thread and another thread and something else and tie back to the
Right. And so so I think the question then becomes, if we, if this sounds good, and that's what I think we're kind of exploring here right now is, well, okay, if we want to make that work, how do we make sure that when you do post something, that the disclaimer is with the post and not with the page? Because that seems to be a problem.
I don't know, but I would think, most people would probably put their affiliation in the work section. And I think you could potentially say, yes, so there is a description, you can say, describe your work here, and you just put the disclaimer there, so that it shows up in the exact same place where it would say,
Yes.
city council or Canyon City mayor or what have you.
Yes.
Because I think that's the key, is that if they see the one, they get the disclaimer.
They can see both at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I have no issues with simplifying it, and I think that may also perhaps address some of Mr. Lund's concerns as well.
You know what I'm thinking, and I'm trying to add a little of that, is that
My wife has taught me to guess enough.
I'm thinking that, thank goodness, the only thing I've ever done on Facebook was show my original campaign sign. Didn't say that I won, haven't said a thing, and all you're gonna get is cute little animals and jokes on it, so, but I will say I have one kind of joke. It depends on who I'm sending. Messenger is another opportunity to send those jokes. But it's one of those to where we're trying to police judgment, and that's harder than heck to say whose judgment is right. And, so this is what's so frustrating, is how the heck do you boil it down? And I agree, you gotta get something fairly simple. And if we can do it by just saying, okay, dadgummit, don't use your Facebook and use it as a bully pulpit as council member, so but boy, it's so easy to say, Anyway, if you want to see some cute pandas and some cute little red pandas, just go to my Facebook page. That's all I can say. So, but yeah, it's frustrating for everybody.
We just need a code so that we have some kind of enforcement or direction for everyone. So we can say to someone that is maybe causing harm, that this doesn't follow our code, right? That's the whole process.
Yes.
It's not about trying to tell them a corporate lie.
Yeah.
It's like if I work for a company and the company's policy is we don't talk about this, and I go talk about their local environment.
Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
I guess maybe just zooming in on those, really it's one long sentence, but just that one bullet point is at the very bottom of page 1, page 2. So section 4 that starts with personal social media accounts of elected officials must comply with one of the following. I think maybe we could just talk about that bullet for a minute. Like, do folks feel like that's about where we should be, or people have some concerns with it? I honestly think that that's the meat of the issue, and you can just scrap the rest of it.
I think that's, and from there, then the council wishes to go from there, but when I looked over this, that seemed like the simplest way to do it, and maybe sometimes you just need to remind people. Oh, you're like, oh yeah, you're right, I shouldn't be doing that, and we're adults. Someone said to me, you gotta refrain from saying you're elected official and putting that in there. I got it. But maybe I need to be reminded. But maybe that's a simple thing to do.
So a code of conduct is a resolution, which,
It would be done as a resolution.
so it only requires the one reading and vote for adoption. And so if we were going to wordsmith our new social media policy involved with 3 sentences, maybe. What we would need to do is include a clear and conspicuous disclaimer in the same place where you identify yourself as a city council member, that views expressed by the
as an elected official. Is that okay? So that it includes the mayor too?
Sure.
Great, I finally get included. So,
Um,
So you have the document?
I just, in the same place where you identify yourself as an elected official, that's Steve.
Yeah, that'd be great. So why don't you transmit that to Brian and the attorneys? So that if we're going to miss here somehow, that we have a chance to correct ourselves, but then this is kind of a sense of council. Is it the sense of council that this is what we would like to be brought back before us for us to take action, which would be our next council meeting?
yeah, and I also think it has to be public facing as well. And I think somebody from the public read that, they'd understand it as well. That's the constituency. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, making sure that it's.
Very simple. Give them 2 pages, their eyes glaze over, and they'll say they never saw it. I think that's as simple enough.
So tell me again what you said about the public facing.
Well, whatever we do,
Uh-huh.
if we go with this caption here
Yeah,
and this caption that talks about especially, I think the public, it's very simple, will understand that.
okay,
And they'll read it, no, it's good, you understand that.
yeah,
Right?
okay. The reason I ask is because we could say rather than personal social media accounts, we could say public facing social media account. But
I think
not sure we need.
to that, then there might be confusion about official social media accounts, because those would also be
Right.
right.
Gotcha. So that may be good right there. So is that the sense of council that we'd like to have? Yes,
I think the only thing I might change is the word to make it comply with CRS 2934-101, is change it from personal to private social media accounts.
hopefully. Sure,
Just so that it's, I mean, the attorneys may catch that anyway, but, because that's specifically what the Colorado Revised Statute like defines as a private social media.
well, maybe it's then two statements. The statement that you have there, this policy is intended to align the policy.
Oh, sure.
And then followed by
That's a big idea.
the guidance.
How much we already talking about reading most of. We're reading like the enforcement section, where those. We're not gonna define, not gonna use the definitions, and we're not gonna say what happens.
My view of that is that as a council, we could address that if the need arose through emotional censure. So that's, in other words, we have a policy in the position, and if we believe it, or if someone believes that there's a violation of the policy, it comes before council to act as a body, make a determination, which we have the right to do. Yes, Councilmember Priestley.
Thanks. I know I'm missing some of the conversation, just the nature of the owl, et cetera, but, and I don't have the statute in front of me beyond what's in this draft here, but I wonder, are we talking about putting disclaimers in every private email message we send, since email can be defined as social media? I mean, I think we need to get some clarity around all that so that we don't get into the land of the ridiculous in terms of what we would require of elected officials.
I think Councilwoman JC, the only time that you would need to include it in an email is if you were signing an email from your private email address, like city council woman, or city council member. You know, if you were identifying yourself in an email in that way, then you would have to include the disclaimer. But if you are refraining from identifying yourself as a Canyon City elected official in your private emails, then you wouldn't need the disclaimer.
So just for clarity on that, is that something that we know already from our attorneys, that that's a legal requirement under state law? Or are we just saying we're proposing that as a city requirement?
I think we're saying that we're proposing it as a city requirement,
As a council requirement.
as a council requirement, but I would flag, that, like, if you are conducting city business from a private email, from your private Facebook page, from Messenger, from your personal phone number, from anything, like all of that has to follow the Colorado Open Records Act, and all of that can be like, have to be turned over based on state law. So like if you are, and I don't mean to address that to you, if any of us are, using any private things in that fashion, like all of that is subject to CORA. And is subject to like records retention requirements.
Well, I think then it's going to be really important for us to get guidance from our attorneys about how that's interpreted, because I mean, if you think about it, if you ever even mention in a private email from your private email account that you're on the city council, I mean, is that, what are we saying about that? That we have to put a disclaimer in that email, and then if so, how do we enforce that? So I just think we really are going to need to get into the detail with our legal guidance on where the line is on that. I can't picture a system where we're going to police the private email accounts of everyone who's an elected official for the city. But I'm happy to hear what Catherine says about it.
So I think it's probably something we need to look at a little bit more. And the kind of practicality, the issues being raised by Council Member Tracy. And just for clarification, if you use private social media, email, phone, whatever, it may be subject to CORA. It's not necessarily subject to CORA. So it's a little bit nuanced in there, but it's definitely something that people need to understand, that it could be subject to CORA and you're required to disclose it. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. It's not quite as straightforward as maybe public email accounts, but I think going back to the email issue, I think maybe we need to be a little bit clearer on, how that works for email in particular. If you mention you're a council member in your email, or mention, you're writing to your cousin about, being a council member, you're not really talking about city business, does that kind of fall into that? And so maybe a couple more definitions in there might help narrow that down and kind of refine that.
And just to follow up on that, Catherine, we haven't talked about text messages yet, have we? Do we need to talk about that? Is that similar to email? I mean, we're not issued city phones, so certainly we get messages, for example, from Ryan that come to all council members from time to time. And so I think we just need to be real careful to walk through all these potential things that we think we're going to regulate for council members.
So as a council, I think that we can to the extent that is not in conflict with established law and regulation, that we can set our own course. If we want to define social media so that it does not include text messages or email, we can, but then we still have guidance on other accounts like Facebook or like LinkedIn or whatever.
Twitter, what is it?
Thanks. Yes. So what I think we should do is go with our two paragraph statement that policy is intended to align, and that personal social media accounts and perhaps we need to specify not including email or text messages must comply with one of the following.
Aren't those addressed in other policies, email, text? Isn't that addressed in other communication policy?
private email and private text messages are. I mean, we certainly do have, I mean, there's Quora, so in terms of what we do, ensuring that we are not inadvertently creating an open meeting through an email or through text. I mean, I think that there's that kind of policy, but I can't think of anything offhand, right? Unless I'm not thinking about something that we have that talks about private, you know.
Not that I can think of.
So I had about it, just about a year ago. There was a gentleman, who is on one of the ditch laterals, who was threatening me over my phone. He was just calling me every few minutes and he wouldn't stop. And, so I called Chief Schick and I asked him, can I block him? I mean, is that legal for me as a council person to block him? And he said, are you on a city cell phone? I said, no, that's my personal. He said, the law is, if it's your personal phone, yes. If someone's harassing you, you can block them, even though it's a city matter. So.
And that is actually really clearly defined in that Colorado revised statute, like what harassment and bullying looks like and what you're allowed to do on private phones and emails. And I highly recommend that we include it in our council packet, because I think it is really helpful.
The orientation, right?
Sorry, yes, that council packet. And it's only in the future 2 months.
Other comments, you know, if we're done talking, I just want to make sure that this is the sense of council. So I would go around for thumbs up or thumbs down in the proposal that we have what the policy statement is intended to do, along with the personal social media refrain, or include with the amended language that makes it clear that it just needs to be where you identify as a city council person. And then run that by the attorneys, and see if we can get it on the agenda.
Do you want to leave the complaint process in so that there is a process if there is a violation? Or alleged violation?
I don't, my feeling on that, and we certainly can go around the table and talk about this, but my feeling on that is that there's only 2 months. You know, we've got a meeting in October, we have maybe a meeting in November, and maybe a meeting in December. So there's not a lot of meetings left, or a lot of time left, and so something simple, as the mayor suggested, I think is preferable, that we don't get down into those details, because then we will be paralyzed by analysis. When really what we're trying to do is get something clear, or hopefully clear, that gives us a way to help regulate our own behavior if needed.
And give guidelines for the new council coming in.
And they certainly can start with that, and, you know, do whatever and throw it out the window or whatever. I mean, that's entirely their prerogative.
Then we're gonna come back to something like this with the new council and do this, put it more explanation about
Meat
it.
on the bones.
That
Put more meat on the bones?
yeah, that's
Is that the idea?
that's a decision for the,
Yeah,
that's, so not trying to speak for the new council.
I think, come January, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
But only if there's,
And I'm not
that's the
keeping it
will.
simple right now, but do something more,
yeah.
it's that explaining what we're talking.
I think, I kind of agree with Mr. Lund. I think that, I don't disagree that we need this because at the end of the year, clarify things. But I think it should be sunset and then it'll be a template that they could take it. The sunset it like as of December the 1st. So that then they can take this and use it to, you know, work on their own.
That actually brings up other issues, because one of the issues that I see that, and something that I'd like to see is cured as this council, before the next council happens, is that we absolutely need on our city website the resolutions that have been passed by previous councils. None of those contain sunset provisions, so I'm not sure that this one should. But the idea would be that council, that is really where the institutional knowledge, what council has looked at and how they made decisions, and what conclusions they come to reside. And right now, we don't have access.
I think maybe one way to thread the needle would be something similar to what we did with the ATP, or sorry, not ATP, UTP policy, where we just say like, this will be reviewed on the first council meeting in 2026. So that it's on the agenda, they can say, yep, this works for now, or nope, this doesn't work for now, and that way it's, you know, it's up to them.
That sounds like a good suggestion to me. Councilmember Tracy.
Yeah, just one more thing that I didn't hear.
Yes.
No, we lost your audio.
You're on mute.
I hope
Yeah,
this
no.
works. I need
Yeah.
3 hands. I need 3 hands here. It's something that if it hasn't been discussed, I would like the attorneys to also, if we're talking about only needing a disclaimer on email where we mention, our private email, where we mention that we're on city council, you know, many people in the community, a whole lot of people in the community know who's on city council. So even if we don't mention it in an email, I would like just advice from our attorneys, whether that disclaimer just has to be on every single personal email we send and every other social media thing. I mean, I think we just need to think this through. I'm not advocating for that, but I would like it reviewed from a legal point of view.
So Councilmember Tracy, perhaps you did not hear the discussion, but what we're talking about is exempting personal email. Avoid that issue and text messages.
But I think we need to know from the attorneys if we can legally do that. I mean, if we can, great, but I just want their review of that.
What was the suggestion that if
Right.
we want to adopt this policy, that it be reviewed by the attorneys, but then come back to council for action?
Can I just add that I think, and the personal email thing, if someone from the community reaches out and sends me an email to either my personal or work email addresses, and I respond, now that becomes public record, correct?
Right.
If I ignore it, I do not respond to the email, reply to the email. I pick up my phone, call the person, or I go into my city email and reply to the person. So then I'm following the rules. Right? So as long as we don't use our personal emails and social media, for that matter, we respond to people reaching out to us about city stuff, and we're following the rules. And I think that's all there is to it.
Okay, so further comments? So I'd like to get a sense of council about the proposal, and I'll say it again, that we have our policy statement, have the statement about social media accounts, what is permissible and what behavior should be expected, with the provisions that we exempt text and email messages, so that we don't go down some rabbit hole here, and have that.
Unless you respond to city business to a person, then you're not following the rules, so you can't exempt. Am I wrong?
For the,
For the disclaimer?
yes,
Okay, but still, if I use a personal account, I'm having a discussion with.
right, no, that,
I'm following to it.
That's still going to be possibly subject to court.
that's a legal issue, not a council issue for us to overrule the legislature. Okay,
And then, I have one more sentence that I'll add at the end about, this policy will be reviewed at the first council meeting in 2026.
thank you for that, and that, I think that's entirely appropriate. You want to start us with thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, I'll pull this together, send it to Ryan, Corey, and Catherine, BCC council, just so that you guys have it, and ask that the attorneys review it, prior to it being on Monday after the 20th meeting, if that sounds great.
Okay,
I think he asked for one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just telling you guys what I would do. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Or equivalent. Okay, yeah. So, and how about, Tim and Emily? What are you, we got fun up there, fun talking?
A little fun.
Yeah, I'm not thumbing up or down on anything. I'd just like some feedback from our attorneys first.
Okay. So noted, and with that, I don't believe we have any other business in front of us. And so we're adjourned.